Okay, so it's been a while since I've done one of these, but today I'm going to look at the Hawkman by Robert Venditti run, I guess you call it, or saga. So this comprises 4 trades: Hawkman Awakening, Hawkman Deathbringer, Hawkman Darkness Within, and Hawk's Eternal, which is the final trade. There's 4 trades. And it's a pretty good read, I have to say. It's probably one of, if not the best Hawkman runs I've read. And like Jeff Johns' previous run, it does make some changes to the history of Hawkman. Jeff Johns in his run had put forth the idea that Hawkman reincarnates time and again through basically getting killed or murdered by this villain called Hath Set. And he and Hawkwoman, because they were lovers in their life in Egypt, or in ancient Egypt, they're cursed and they have to keep reliving, they keep coming back and dying again whenever they find themselves together or find themselves in love with each other. That gets changed up here by Venditti in that Hawkman's origin goes back even further. And I also have to say it's pretty good art in here by Brian Hitch in the first 2 volumes. And he basically has to atone for something he did in the past, and in his very first incarnation, which predates the Egyptian stuff. Goes back almost, I think, to the beginning of the universe, or close enough to it. So the first 12 issues, issues 1 through 6, are collected in Volume 1, and 6 through 12, or 7 through 12, are in Volume 2. But Hawkman is basically going around for the first 12 issues trying to discover more information about his past lives. Kind of what Jeff Johns did, to a sense, in his old series. But in this case, Hawkman is actually meeting his previous lives instead of just remembering them. So he meets Katar Hall on Thanagar, as you can see here. He goes to Krypton, where one of his Katar All, I think it is how it's pronounced, who was a scientist on Krypton, much like Jor-El. So he gets to see the destruction of Krypton, things like that. And he teams up with the Atom for a few adventures and visits the Microverse. So the first 12 issues kind of tell what could have been a complete story overall. That's a pretty good shot of the Atom there across. Like, there's a lot of really good spread pages in this, or splash pages. And the first 12 issues pretty much tell a complete story. Although they do leave a few mysteries, I guess you could say, for future volumes, through Venditti's run, because it does get picked up later on throughout the series. But the first 12 issues could be considered a story in itself, like a complete story, because there is a kind of a few detours along the way. This is a guy from Krypton here, the Hawkman of Krypton, I guess you would call it. But it does deal with Hawkman dealing with this one called the Lord Beyond the Void, who is the guy that is responsible, I guess, for Hawkman killing basically billions of people. And then the whole idea is that his reincarnations won't stop until he atones for all the deaths that he's caused. He has to save as many lives as he's responsible for killing. And of course he has to fight the Lord Beyond the Void's army of Deathbringers, which is what they're called. And that could have been the end of it right there, but they do take it a bit further. And it does get a little, I don't want to say distracted, because it's not a distraction. It works pretty well into the main story, but there is a tie-in in this and in Volume 4 to the, was it Dark Knights of Metal, or whatever it was called, the big crossover they had a while back. And this, Volume 3, which is Darkness Within, collects issues 13 to 19, and deals with of course, what is probably most people's, what they would consider to be Hawkman's arch enemy, which is the Shadow Thief, who, keeps coming back time and again. And again, there are some looks into Hawkman's past. Pretty cool image. There's one of the covers, I think. And they switch artists at this point to, I think it's Pat Olliffe, I believe his name is pronounced. So Shadow Thief got an upgrade, and Pat Olliffe, yeah. You can see that. Shadow Thief, and that's the Shade, which is an old Flash / Starman villain or supporting character, however you want to look at him. So they do go into the Shadowlands to deal with Shadow Thief, and while they're there, Hawkman kind of succumbs to his dark side because he's been infected with that Dark Knight's Metal nonsense, or whatever you want to call it, where he becomes like an evil version of himself called the Sky Tyrant, which is an Earth 3 version of Hawkman. That was the Shadow Sheriff there, apparently, who was the Earth 3 hero. So yeah, there's the Sky Tyrant, and volumes 3 and 4 of this kind of deal with Hawkman becoming the Sky Tyrant, and Hawkwoman, who gets brought back in this volume, having to deal with it, and then having to enlist the Atom and Adam Strange for help. And again, the artwork is pretty good. It means it's consistent pretty much with, the Brian Hitch level of quality in the art, which is nice, because sometimes they switch artists halfway through a run or through a volume, and the art styles are so different that it really takes you into the story. But here it works pretty well. And volume 4 basically wraps up the whole Lord of the Voids, or Lord Beyond the Void, kind of a weird name, story arc that began way back in issue number 1. And I want to mention here that the colors in this, so look at that, that's pretty cool. A lot of very vibrant colors in this series, from volume 1 up through volume 4. That's a giant size Hawkman for you. And Jeremy Cox, I believe, is the colorist. But the work on this looks phenomenal in terms of the coloring. And again, the artwork is spectacular for a lot of these double page splashes. So you do get the Atom and Doctor Strange, or not Doctor Strange, sorry, Adam Strange, wrong universe, helping out Hawkman and Hawkwoman. And Hawkwoman is not to be confused with Hawk Girl, the other one, because there was a Hawk Girl during Jeff Johns' run who was Kira Saunders, who was, let me see if I get this right, it's Shiera Saunders, who was the original Hawk Girl, her niece, I believe, or something like that. Anyways, Hawk Girl had her own series, or had Hawkman series for a while, and then that got collected as well, but it's a long story. But yeah, it's been a fantastic run. It only ran 29 issues before the title ended, and sadly there wasn't another writer to pick up the title after Venditti left. But the 29 issues was a fantastic run for Hawkman. Probably the best, well, definitely the best since Jeff Johns, and I would say might be even better than Jeff Johns' run. And of course, you do get some Justice Society adventures in here. I kind of rounded out the end of the series. But overall, like I said, fantastic story with a few little hiccups, I would say. In that there are some things that are left that are kind of questionable. One is that, again, the whole reincarnation thing does come up a lot. It's hopefully, because they do state in this that it does come to an end, but I'm glad they managed to get it out of the way at this point, so any future Hawkman titles can move past that and just deal with regular Hawkman adventures now. But basically, this whole thing, he keeps being reincarnated because God decided that he had to be punished for his sins. And so it's God that's really responsible for for Hawkman basically being reincarnated over and over again. So that's again, it's not one of the new gods on New Genesis or Apocalypse even or anything like that. But, you know, the god apparently is responsible for Hawkman's reincarnations, which, you know, depending on your beliefs, might rub you the wrong way. It doesn't really bother me too much, but again, it might bother some people. But overall, a fun run. And like I said, probably the best run of Hawkman that I've read, personally. And I've gone through the Jeff Johns, Jimmy Palmiotti, I think was his name, that followed up Jeff Johns, and Walter Simonson runs. And this, to me, is the best out of those four eras, if you will. I still would like to read some more of Tim Truman's Hawk World. I've only read the original miniseries and like a handful of issues of the monthly series. But yeah, man, overall, great read. Pick this up if you can. They're at your local comic book shop, or you can download the issues online through Comixology. I'm trying to see what the price here is. It's man, the lighting here is horrible. $16.99 US, $22.99 Canada. That's about average for each of the trades. So, yeah, pick them up if you can find them at your local comic book store, or read the issues online, and enjoy some good Hawkman comics. Until next time.